Selecting objects, manipulating objects. Pivot points, channel box, and attributes within the object. We're gonna see all those things. Let's jump into Maya and we'll go one by one right here. Maya is open. I have a clean scene. It's a new scene. And first of all, I want to show you what it is an object. So if I go to the create button right there, or menu, I go to the sphere and it brings me a sphere, and I go to the menu that I can just clear that off for 1 second, so I can bring a cylinder right there, and I can bring every single shape that I can find right there. So these ones are called the objects, and it's pretty much like an object in real life that we have. This would be an object, this would be an object, and more things would be an object. In Maya now, so far I have these primitive shapes that are objects, and important to notice that I can also bring the curves, which would be something like, let me try with this one's circle, something like that, and you can see that difference right there. If I bring a square like this one, and let me close that and zoom in here so you can see what I'm talking about. These ones are solid objects, which means that we can't really see through. They have that they're full of polygons that we can't really see through that object. The same as the cylinder, the same as the donut right there, or the pyramid right here. These ones, they are solid objects. If I go to the other ones right here, like that or this one, you can see that they are made out of one line. Could be the outline, could be a series of lines that are attached together like this one. You can find that that is one line only. Let me zoom in right there, and I can go and grab the other side of that square, or this one or that one. Now these ones are flat, and the main thing to notice here is that even though it is not solid, you can grab it, you can select it. So that would be an object as well. It's not necessarily that we need to find things that are solid like that. If I open the outliner, outliner is something that you will learn shortly. The outliner shows me the contents of the scene, and I can see that I have 4 cameras. 4 cameras are the viewports that I have in Maya. If I zoom out, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 viewports. So those are the 4 cameras I have, and then I zoom back into this perspective window, and I can go one by one here. This one's a sphere. If I click on this one, that would be that cylinder. If I click on that one, that is a pyramid. And then the torus is right there, and you can see that the icons right here are represented by different mesh or drawing right there. And then the circle, it has that curve right there that is indicating it's a different object, but it is what we call an object. And if I frame it with the F key right there, we can see what it is. And if I go to this one right there and I frame it as well, it finds the square. This one is a group of lines, and I can see what they are like that, just by grabbing that, or by doing this right here. So let's move on and see, now that we understand what is an object, we can go and grab these objects. So the first thing, as any other Windows or Mac system, you can just open a box like that, and it's going to open that little window, and whatever is inside the window, it's just going to select. If you open the window and you have 2 objects, it's going to select 2 objects. So that's one way of doing it. If you click anywhere on an empty space, just click once or open that box once, it is going to deselect, and that's a really nice way of doing things. Instead of going edit, deselect right there, you can go and say, okay, just click anywhere. So we are having this, or developing this habit about just clicking anywhere on an empty space. If I now want to grab this one and the pyramid like that at the same time, I would need to hold down the shift key, and that would be, I grab the first one, shift, and then grab the other one like that. Easy enough. I can keep on adding my selection right there, holding down shift key right here and grabbing them all like that. I can grab just only 2 sides from that square like so, which is cool. And the other way of doing this would be you can grab them all like that, or opening a box like that, and now you can do the opposite. You can hold down the control key and let go different objects. You want to let go that and maybe one side of the cube, sorry, the square right here, or that circle, and that's the way we do it. If you only left click once, you just tap it once with the mouse or with the Wacom without opening the box like that, just click it once, and that's also pretty fast. It would be a bit more difficult on outlines like this one because you really need to aim properly like that. But if you do it in a solid surface like this one, that's pretty simple, and they could be like really far away, something like that, and still do it. The lines sometimes are harder to get, and then that's why you open the box and make sure that you are including something within that box, and you're going to select something. So that would be selecting the objects. So now that we've seen what objects are, I'll move on and open now the character that I have here. I can open it up so I can show you how we're doing this on our Animators lives. I go like that, and now we have the the character right there, and it has, you can see that it has all these circles, it has that shape right there, it has different shapes. This one would be kind of like a square that is modified. We have these ones for the knees. So again, all these ones are objects, and they are there, they have been set up in a way that they can manipulate the object. Manipulating the object, these would be called control objects for the character, and based on that we can do the same principle. We can grab just one, we can grab two right there if we want, we can grab both sides with the shift key right there, we can grab the spine, maybe we can grab the spine, the middle spine, the upper torso, and then also the clavicles right there, and then just keep on grabbing and selecting the objects. Now why would we do that? Because we would like to manipulate different things at the same time, and we're getting into manipulation mode now, which basically means I can grab the elbow or the shoulder right there, and I can go to the left corner of the screen, and I'll zoom in right there so you can see what I'm talking about. We have here the toolbox, and the ones that we are using the most is this one, move tool, rotation tool, which is this one, and then we have the scale tool. We have more up here and then down there, but mainly to manipulate those objects we're going to use these ones, move tool, rotation tool, and the scale tool. We might be doing that for 90% of the time. If we need to get into deeper component selection and points and things that will be more specific, we'll be using the other tools. But I can guarantee you that we have maybe 90% of the time we're just using those three. And then those three would be also on the keyboard. As we know, we have the WER, and you can see that the icon changes right there. It's giving me different manipulation modes. So if I go to the transform object, I can see the arrows there of the axis. If I go to the rotation object, I can see now that those rings that are showing me that I can rotate this in that axis or this other axis or this axis, the blue one right there. If I go to the R key, that means the scale manipulation mode, which means I can bring it, you know, up, size it up or size it down, and it depends on the object. Let me bring different things so I can show you what I mean. If I get into the same menus as before, and I can bring that cube, and let me bring back that sphere again so we can have two things right there. And also let me bring just one more, would be the curve or the circle right here. And as you can see that I can grab the same objects here. I can grab them like that, and I can do the manipulation mode to the WER on the keyboard, and I can see now I can grab them, scale them all up like that. If I go to the E key, which is the rotation tool, I can see that it's getting highlighted as I'm pressing the hotkey. I can rotate these guys all at once like that. I can do it on the other axis as well. And if I go to the move key with the W right there, or pressing on the toolbox, I can move them like that, or I can move them like this, or I can free move them in any direction by grabbing them from the center of the axis. The same way, if I go back to my character right there, I can do things here. So let's check this out. If I have the circle, I know that I can only rotate them because that's an arm, and I can go up and down like this, which is, you know, it's pretty straightforward. That would be what the arm motion is doing. It's just doing that, like that. If I try to move it up and down, you're gonna find that sometimes we have the axis, it's being grayed out, which means it's all gray. We can't really see anything or move anything. Basically what it means is that it has been locked down and we can't do anything to that anymore, because we're rigging this character in a way that we're not allowing the shoulder going up and down with that control. We might do it with a different control, but not this one. So if I try to do something right there, I can't do it. But if I go to the rotation, I can. So you see that this one's working, and this one, it is working, and then this one right there, that would be working as well. If I try to scale it, it's the same story. I can't do it because I can't really scale the arm. The rig has not been set up for that. It is protecting or locking down the scale manipulation mode, so we're not really doing it. If I go to, let's see, to this control now, this one opens that manipulation mode and tells me, well, now on this one you can do it. And it is pretty much how we've been setting up the character. We can scale it on one side like that as well. And again, if I go back to those three basic pieces, I can see that I can do it on one side only. I can do this one on the other side, and I can do this one maybe on that side. Like in the case of the circle, if I go up and down, there's nothing because it has no volume, so you're not going to see a lot of change in that one. In fact, you're not going to see any change at all. But if I go back to these ones now, and let's see if I can find something that I can move like that, this we can move. So he's going back and forth. So he's going backwards and he's going forwards with that manipulation mode. So again, those three manipulations modes, the move tool, the rotation tool, and the scale tool are the main ones that we're going to be using. Multiple selecting here, as I was telling you before, I can grab that shoulder and then shift, grab the other shoulder, and then do this at the same time. Let's see that I want to pose him like that, and now we're getting something more with that symmetry like that, and we're working faster. I can go to the forearm or the elbow and then do the same. So I can go like that, and I will show you one more thing about this manipulation modes. As you can see, I have no more the ring that goes. If I want to go from here, I want to go there. I can't do it because there's no ring. The computer, it is not showing me any ring. So any of these manipulation tools, or each one of these ones, they have sub tools that you can turn on and off, and you can do that in two ways. You can double click on the icon right there, and it's going to open a new window that tells you these are the parameters that we have for that tool. And I can have the rotate mode. You can see it says local. If I click on that one, you can see that the axis, they change. It's giving me more options. If I go like world, it changes as well. Now this is flat, so it's taking the world as reference, not longer the arm, but more the world. And then the gimbal right there, that it was the one that I had selected. Each one of them, they have their own purpose. You're gonna find slowly how to set them up and then how to use them as well. And you're gonna get more comfortable using one or switching depending on the situation. But for now, we need to have the local right there. And once that I switch to local, I can have my axis right here. And I can see that it is not giving me what I want because of the lock right there. So it means that I have to go up one level, go into the shoulder right there, and then this one I can do it like that. So they're gonna go in like this. So it all depends on the rigs. It all depends on the anatomy. Basically, the rigs are being set up based on anatomy. So the arm, you can't do the arm in a certain way because you would break it. You would break the bone anatomy wise, and you're gonna find that you can't do that. So the riggers would be setting that up for you. Now Let me show you more manipulation modes. Let's say that I want to have this guy hips going down like that, and I go to the move tool and I can see the axis. If I go to the side view right here and I frame that axis right there, you can see that this axis is flat, meaning that it's 90 degrees parallel to the ground, and then that's fine. If I want to move him forward, I can just go like that along that axis. If I want this guy to be going down because the hips, they have been rotated down, I would go and double click on the icon right there, and again just see the options that it's giving me. So I can go object, and you can see that automatically it is reorienting that axis down to the hips, and it is pointing down there. If you go and press the plus key, it grows. You can see the axis growing. If you press the minus key, it is shrinking. So I can make it large now for you guys to see it, and I can now move it down, move it forward, and it is not going forward like that, but it's going a little bit lower because the axis has been rotated to match the hips. And you can try different things. You can try the world, you can try the local, you can try the normal, which is a different setting right there. The most common ones would be object and world. And again, object just adopts the coordinates that it has in a local basis, and in the world it is set up to look at the universe of Maya, and it's pretty much parallel like that. So that would be axis. If you go now and do the same for the scale, you're gonna find that it's the same idea. If you double click on the scale, you're gonna have these axes right there. You have object, you have world, you have local and normal. So just switch from one to one and see, just pay attention to the manipulation icon right there, so you can see how it is changing right there from one to the other one, and then just pick the one that suits the situation right there. So that's how you manipulate things. Now if I want to pose this guy and do more a combination of everything, I can go down with this one. I can maybe have him going, pressing the minus key right there. I can have him going maybe to the side like that, and then maybe one hand that is going to go up and say, let's say that he's going to say hi with that hand like that, and then go like this. How's it going? And I can go into the face, and with the same manipulation modes I can do the same thing. Translating these ones, I can rotate them, I believe, as well, depending on the rig. You see it's not letting me rotate, but if I go into this one, I believe I can do it. Yeah, so this one's letting me. So it's all depending on how you set them up. For the eyes in this rig, it's just a matter of putting that down, and then the eyeball, you can rotate that one. If I want to translate it, it's not letting me doing that. If I want to scale it, you can't really do it as well because that's an eye, and then the eye would just pop out of the skull, and we don't want to have that. If I want to go to the fingers and do kind of like a fist pose, I can grab this one like that and it just goes down like that. I can do them at the same time, and this is why it's so important to know how to select multiple objects with the shift key, doing that and going down like that. And if I want the middle, click right there, or the middle portion of the finger. Now we have more things to get into, and that's the channel box. The channel box right there, it is on the right hand side of the screen right there. You can see the name. We've seen that before plenty of times. Maybe you haven't really noticed, but it says channel box and the layer editor. Layer is down here and below that line, but then the channel box, pretty much it just displays the coordinates for every single channel, and a channel would be basically, it is every single axis. So here has also attributes. Let me show you what I mean by the axis. If I rotate this hand like that, you can see that the numbers are changing right there. In the rotate Z, they keep on changing real time, and that is something that's really cool to see. You can, if you are more of that mathematical person, you can do it right there in the channel box. Just type in the numbers. You can go 90 degrees and the hand's gonna be like that with that angle. Or if you are more if you go by feeling, you can just do it like that. You're more visual, you want to do it like that. And if it gives you -70 point and some fractions, that's okay as well. It is just the channel that is indicating what would be the position for that finger. So if you go each one of them, you can see that they have different numbers right there as you are selecting and deselecting the other ones. On the channel box, we also have what we call the attributes. Attributes are pretty much what's extra from the channels that are common channels. Common channels are move, rotate, and scale. And we have the ability to create more channels. In this character's rig, we have created that middle joint. So you grab that one, you go to the screen, the viewport, and then you middle click right there, and you have now the rotation of that finger. I can go to the last joint right there, and now it's doing the tip of the finger right there. And again, if I grab, let's say, this one and that one, I can do the same thing. I will go to that middle joint and then do it like that. I can manipulate the last piece. I can go maybe the opposite like that if you want, or like that, more like a fist, as we were saying. And then notice that it has a scale. Let's see if the scale is actually doing something right there. So you can scale the fingers just in case that you need them. So that is also a good thing. And the rest of the attributes, it has a finger IK, F4 kinematics and inverse kinematics, more on that a bit later. And we have the side to side, so we're opening, you can see that the side to side is open, that finger, it's rearranged in the finger. So these are attributes that belong to the actual model, and once they belong to that, you can manipulate that model like that, meaning that if I go to my basic geometry shapes out of Maya, you can see that the common attributes are these ones plus that one. There's no joints for the fingers. That has been specially created for the character, and that's the way it has to be. So you can create those ones. Now we have a very interesting one, which is the visibility, and that one pretty much just turns the object on and off. So I can go here and then type 0, it goes away. I can type 1 and it comes back. I can maybe, instead of 0, I can type off and it goes away. I can type also right there on and it comes back. So I can do it for the 3 of them. And I can say visibility off like that, so they could go away, or press the number 1 and press enter and they come back right there. So that would be the visibility. And if I go back to some of these controls, they're not going to have that visibility because we need to see them always, and that's important. You don't want to be keyframing things because they can just go away. And let's say you want to move the finger and it's being keyframed and it goes away, and then you want to fix it. You can't really bring that control anymore. It's hitting somewhere, so you don't want to have that for sure. And let me show you more of the attributes. If I go back to this one it only has one channel, the rotation in X. If I go back to the spine, I can see that I have no more attributes but the common ones right there. If I go back to this one, you're gonna find that we have more things on the attributes. We have display geometry, so we have 3 modes. We have the proxy model right there, so we have things in between right there. Or we can say, show me the proxy only. And this would be pretty much the low-res version for any model. If they're built properly, they're going to have these 3 levels of details, and that would be related to the speed that you can be working at. Let's say that you have a scene that is really complex. You might have 5 guys like this one, and then the computer has to be calculating all that real time. So the many more polygons that we have, the slower it's going to be. So you turn them on and off like that. So you can just go and say, okay, show me the geometry like that again, and that would be enough. Like that. Sure and good stuff. If I keep on going down, let me show you more things. This one does not have too many things. The foot is going to have things like raise the heel, swivel the knee like that, raise the toe only, and then the swivel the toe right there. And again, this is me only showing you what the channel box is going to contain. Every single character that you're going to open in the school and then later in your career, they're going to have their own attributes. It's important for now to know that you can find the attributes on that channel box, but don't try to think it as every single character is going to have this, because they might not have that. And then sometimes the animators in the studios, you will be talking to the riggers and say, hey, can you give me an attribute for squash and stretch? And they would give it to you, and you say, okay, put it in the channel box below the visibility option. So this is that knowledge that you have to take away from this. Every single character is going to have something different. And if I go to the eyes like that, it only has 2 channels right there, and I have the lid follow, and that's one attribute that I can go. You can see the lid's not doing anything, but if I put it on right here, if I rotate it now, it is following that rotation. And again, it's been set up like that, and it doesn't mean that the studio that you're going to be working on is going to have that attribute, but then you can ask for it. Let's go into pivot points. Pivot points are mainly the axis. It means that every single object or item that we have here, if I go back to that outliner and I see what I have in my scene, every little thing like that, it is going to have an axis, because this is a 3D world and it has to display that axis. If I grab the sphere, it is showing me that, and it is the axis that is communicating to the channel box, and then all the numbers you see there are coming from the axis. If I want to rotate that axis, or if I want to do anything to that axis, I can. Basically, you have to do 2 things. In the Mac, you will be pressing the D key, and you can see that it changes. If I press it and let it go, you can see that it changes. And what it's doing is that it's letting me move the axis wherever I want, based on my needs. Pretty much, it's free to move. On the PC, you would click on the insert key on your keyboard, and it is going to do the same thing, and you can move it like that. Now, why would we like to move that, or do we need to move that at all? Let me show you one thing. If I go back there and go to the side view here on the hotbox right there, and I go here and I press the D key and I move it down to the center bottom right there, and now I rotate it like that. That ball, it is going to rotate like this, which could be great if we're looking for that. If you're not looking for that, it is not going to be great. It's going to give you more trouble. But let's say that you set it up like that. Now the cube, I can move it as well and then put it maybe somewhere in that corner like that. Let me go to the side view as well, go to the wireframe with the 4 key and then put it like this, and then go back to the perspective, shaded mode with the F key on the keyboard, and move it like this. See, so now it is rotating from there. Once you set the axis, pay attention, once you set the axis, you can't really move it back. I mean, you can, but it is only one position that it's going to take. You cannot keyframe the position of the axis. What that basically means is that you set it like this, and then you animate something based on that axis. And then you say, well, you know, frame 20 would be nice to have the axis back to the center, and you move it. All the animation from before, it is going to be broken, because the axis, there's just one axis, and it has to stay in one position. You cannot be changing the axis. So when you are planning your scene and you think that you're going to have a certain behavior of the object, you say, okay, the axis has to be right there, and then that's it. Just leave it there for the scene. If somebody else comes and changes the axis within the team or within the studio, it is going to break the position of the objects, because the channel box is recording all these coordinates, and the scene is going to open and things are going to be moved around because of the axis. So that's the only thing that you need to know. Set the axis. It's important that you plan the scene, and then you tailor the scene and then you build the scene based on those axes. You can do the axis and reset the axis. If I clean a new scene, let me just go back to a new scene right here. So we can see what this means. And let me just get some fresh objects right there. I will get a sphere and I would get a cube as well, and then move the cube out of the way. Switch to the shaded mode and then do this. I can, just for this demo, I can manipulate that like this. And I go back to my object right there and I find the axis. It is right there. It is not in the center anymore. So this one is going to rotate like that. So I have a couple of ways of doing this. I can go and say modify center, and then the axis is going to go to the center like that. If I undo it, it goes back. If I redo it, it goes to the center. And that is a nice way of finding the center of the object like that. The same with the sphere. If I move the axis with the D key on the Mac, move it right there, and then I find somewhere later on that I don't want to have that anymore, I can go and say modify center pivot right there, and then it goes back to the center of the object, which is nice. Every time that you move the axis, you have to look at the channel box, because it doesn't change the number because you reposition the axis. If you move the object, it is going to change the number. These are mathematical things that could be really confusing. From an animator point of view, you only need to know that the axis, you can place it sometimes if the need requires that. If you are the one that's building the scene, you would place the axis and you don't have to move it again. I'll show you more about axis. It doesn't really mean that you're gonna do it later on, but it's just your general knowledge about axis. So let me go back and say center that axis like that, and do something to let's say to this object like that. I can go and just rotate it like that, and then the sphere, do the same thing, just rotate it like this, something, a crazy number. And when I'm doing this, that I'm not really grabbing the ring like that. If I go like that, it is something that we normally don't do. I'm just doing it because I want to get something that is unexpected, and just manipulating the three axes at the same time. We have to be careful about that one and just do one at a time, because the computer is going to calculate those things. So again, if you want to get something unexpected, just go like that. And when I do that, I can see that the numbers on the channel box, if I bring the sphere close to that so we can see it, the channel box right there, you can see the numbers that are pretty big numbers. I have minus 658 and then some fractions. All these numbers are big numbers, and it is getting sometimes confusing, and we need to reset those numbers back to 0. There's two ways of doing it. One would be I can grab them all and press the 0 key like that, and it's going to go to the center of the universe in rotation and translation. If I undo that and I want to keep the sphere there, but I want the axis to be reset, I go modify and I go to reset transformations right there, and also freeze transformations. So there's two menus that are related. If you press the first one like that, takes it back because it's resetting everything. If I undo it and I do the freeze transformation, I let it go, and what's happening now is that the sphere stays, but then the numbers are changing. Now let me go into this one and see what it has. Go to the options box and make sure you have the reset settings right there, translation, rotation, and scaling, and then apply that. Now you can see that this has the same position of the sphere, the same rotation of the sphere, but the axes now are 0, which is pretty powerful sometimes, because you want to go and set that initial pose that is all rotated like that, and it's great. I'll show you an example of that so you can understand better. I will go back to my character right there, and this is something more that belongs to the rigging team. And again, you need to understand these things. If I manipulate the object going like this, and then grabbing the other shoulder with that circle object like that, and then working on the torso like this, and then working like that with the head, and then maybe that foot going all the way up like that, and then going like this with this one. See, something that I'm posing the character the way that I want. Like so, let's say that is the pose. And let me just do one more thing. I grab the eyes and then move them to the side, and I can break the geometry a little bit right there, and then do the smile all the way up like that. So this is my pose, and it's a broken pose, and the supervisor comes back in and says, you know what, go back to the beginning and repose this guy. Reposing or going back to the beginning would be kind of hard, because I need to go and say, okay, the arm was kind of like right there, and this one was right there. So I'm just eyeballing things, so it's really hard because I don't know the numbers. The numbers could be big numbers like the -600 and something, so it's really hard to remember those ones. But I remember now that the rigging team, they have been resetting those axes. So if I grab the hips right there, it says -10, I can zero that out, as we call it, and then go to the other one and then grab these ones and then do the same thing, zero this one out, and then go here, this one's 0, that means that I haven't really touched that. I can go and grab both shoulders at the same time and then do the 0 right there, grab the head, 0 on this one, grab both eyes, and then do the same thing, and then keep on going. You can see that the character is actually going back into position like that, and I'm only missing those feet. So I grab both feet right there, translation 0 like that, and we're back there, and then the guy he's like that. Oops, I'm missing something. As you can see, the mouth, 0 that out as well, and it goes back into position. So now you understand why the rigging team has to be able to move the axis and saying this is the reset pose, or the bounding, or the binding pose. So every time the animator goes in and resets the values, you have to go to that pose, which is pretty powerful for animation. Selecting objects, manipulating the objects, the channel box and the attributes. Play with those ones and you get comfortable with them. Just try to see how they work and feel them a little bit. Don't be afraid if you break them.